Long before European empires dominated the seas, a mighty kingdom ruled over hundreds of islands in Southeast Asia, yet few today remember its name, Majapahit. How did the Majapahit Empire rise to power, and why did it disappear from history books? Now, let's begin the story of that hidden history, the unforgettable journey of the Majapahit Empire. Banished, hunted, and presumed broken, Raden Wijaya roamed the rain-drenched jungles of Java, a prince without a crown. But exile had not dulled his ambition, it had sharpened it into something cold and precise. When the Mongols arrived with their iron ships and thunderous banners, most trembled. Wijaya saw opportunity. He bowed to them with feigned loyalty, offered guides, food, and alliance. But beneath the silk of his words, he forged knives. On the night of the lunar eclipse, as the Mongols celebrated a false victory, he struck. Fire rained from the trees. Blades flashed like lightning. By dawn, the invincible army lay in silence. Crowned atop the corpses of giants, Wijaya's first act was neither feast nor prayer. He knelt in the sacred grove of ancestors, smeared ash across his chest, and whispered into the wind, "I will not rest. I will not falter. I will rule not only Java, but every island where the sun dares to touch the sea." The jungle listened, and somewhere, deep beneath the soil, something ancient stirred. From the edge of the battlefield came a man draped not in silk, but in scars, Gajah Mada, son of a forgotten village, warrior of unmatched discipline. He rose not through noble blood, but through sheer will. His sword had never missed, and his eyes had never blinked at death. The court called him a servant. The people whispered he was something more. At a royal feast soaked in saffron and clove, as nobles laughed and dancers swirled, Gajah Mada stood still. When offered a taste of nutmeg, Majapahit's prized export, he refused. The hall fell silent. "I swear, before gods and ghosts," he declared, "I will not taste a single grain of spice until the Nusantara kneels united beneath one banner, ours." The crowd erupted, half in awe, half in fear. But none saw the bloodied pendant he kept hidden beneath his armor, a relic from his murdered family, torn apart by palace betrayal when he was a boy. His vow was not only for unity. It was a quiet war cry, aimed not outward, but deep into the heart of the empire itself. In the shadowed halls of the Majapahit court, where alliances shifted like smoke and trust was rarer than gold, Gajah Mada found the one thing he never expected, her. She was veiled in mystery, her presence like a forgotten melody. Some whispered she was a captive princess of a defeated island kingdom, spared for reasons none dared speak aloud. Others claimed she was a spy, sent to poison the general's heart. Yet when their eyes met beneath the lanterns of the moonlit garden, the war inside them both fell silent. Their love, urgent, wordless, forbidden, blossomed in secret chambers and hurried glances. But when her hand drifted to her belly, both knew the danger had doubled. A child now grew within her, a child whose blood carried two legacies, one of a conqueror, the other of the conquered. If discovered, it could spark revolt or rebirth. So she vanished from court life, hidden away in a distant temple under the protection of loyal monks. Gajah Mada never spoke her name again. But his silence screamed louder than war drums. Deep within the jungle, where vines strangled ruins older than any living soul, a group of royal priests unearthed a forgotten temple. Beneath layers of moss and stone, they uncovered carvings, spirals of ancient script circling a cracked obsidian idol. As the high priest traced the symbols, his fingers trembled. The message was clear. When the blood of rulers overreaches the tide, earth will drown, and fire will rise. The carvings spoke of balance, between land and sea, power and humility. And punishment, should that balance be broken by ambition or impurity of blood. Weeks later, the signs came like whispers turning to screams. Crops failed in the fertile east. Black clouds hovered over trading ports. Entire fleets vanished into calm waters without a trace, leaving behind only drifting sails soaked in salt and blood. At court, the phrase spread like a fevered chant. The curse has awakened. But no one dared say aloud what they feared most. that the imperial bloodline had been tainted by a secret birth, and that the sea was coming to collect. The emperor, once feared across oceans, now sat slumped in his throne, his breath shallow, his skin pale as rice paper. Rumors of illness circled, but those close to him knew better. A chalice of tamarind wine, brought nightly by his trusted nephew, had turned from medicine to murder. With a trembling hand, the crown was passed, though not to a prince, but to a boy. A wide-eyed child of no known parentage, declared. Chosen by the ancestors. He barely spoke. Yet behind that silence, his eyes glowed a striking gold, eyes that did not match any royal lineage, but stirred memories in Gajah Mada like a ghost pressing against his chest. At the coronation, as drums beat and incense burned, Gajah Mada stood frozen. The boy's gaze found his through the crowd, steady, calm, unsettling. A whisper coiled in the general's mind. He is mine! But to speak it aloud would mean death. For the boy, for the mother in hiding, and for the last hope of uniting an empire already cracking at its core. With rebellion simmering in the outer islands and whispers of rival claimants rising, Majapahit dispatched its might, 300 warships, the pride of the archipelago, to crush the unrest. Drums thundered, sails caught the monsoon winds, and the armada vanished into the southern sea. They never arrived. Weeks passed. Then months. No messenger returned, no wreckage washed ashore, only silence. Then came a single man, drifting ashore half mad and burnt by sun and salt. His eyes were clouded, his tongue swollen, but across his back, etched by knife or curse, was a map, jagged coastlines, cryptic runes, and a blood-red mark where the fleet had fallen. The survivors' tales were more myth than memory. Glowing orbs beneath the waves. Voices that sang sailors to madness. Serpents longer than ships, guarding black spires rising from the deep. The court dismissed it as delirium. But Gajah Mada did not. He had read the old temple curses. He knew when the sea took something, it did not always keep it dead. In a sealed chamber beneath the royal library, where only dust, rats, and time dared tread, a servant girl stumbled upon a cracked panel behind a shelf of forgotten texts. Behind it, wrapped in decaying silk and sealed with wax stamped in a language no one had spoken for centuries, was a scroll. The one who opened it was not a scholar, but a queen, the emperor's current bride, a woman known more for her beauty than her voice. Yet she had always watched, listened, waited. By candlelight she unraveled the parchment, the ink faint but pulsing with forbidden truths. It told of an alternate lineage, a second Majapahit, born from the shadows of the first. A secret council formed after the fall of Trauyulan. A bloodline carried not through palaces, but through hidden unions, veiled symbols, and coded rituals. Majapahit, it claimed, never truly died. It went beneath. It adapted. It waited. As she read on, her fingers trembled. Among the symbols detailing heirs and lineages, one mark reappeared again and again, a golden eye. And in that moment she understood, this wasn't history. It was prophecy. And she was now part of it. Out of the mist-choked highlands rode a figure cloaked in crimson and shadow. His face hidden behind a mask of black iron, etched with ancient runes. The warrior called himself only Anaktiga Bayangan, the child of three shadows. Whispers spread like wildfire. He speaks the old tongue. He commands fire. He bleeds not red but gold. Some claimed he was born of the mountains. Others swore they'd seen him in dreams foretold by dying monks. None knew the truth. That he was the hidden child of Gajah Mada and the lost consort, forged in silence, raised among rebels, and taught that the empire was both his birthright and his burden. With the blood of Mongol invaders and Javanese kings, he stood not just as heir, but as a bridge between empires. His vision, the rebirth of Majapahit, where the old gods walked once more, and the sea bowed to the land. Villages fell to his cause not by sword, but by song. Priests hailed him as the fulfillment of the scroll. Nobles panicked. But behind his mask, The heir asked himself a question no prophecy could answer. Am I here to rebuild, or to end it all? The once golden capital of Majapahit, heart of an empire, now crackled beneath a sky smeared with smoke and ash. As enemy banners surged through the palace gates, not foreign, but raised by ambitious nobles and jealous princes, Gajah Mada stood atop the final tower, armor scorched, sword red with loyalty. His soldiers were gone, his allies dead or turned. But still he stood, alone, unbowed. The boy he once dared not claim had returned, cloaked in prophecy, gathering power with every heartbeat. And Gajah Mada, once vowing never to taste spice until Nusantara was united, had failed. His oath was ashes on his tongue. As flames licked the tower's base, a wounded monk crawled to him, begging for a final word, a final truth. Gajah Mada bent low and whispered the name of the hidden heir, one the world had already begun to chant. Then, with sword in hand and the roar of betrayal in his ears, he leapt into legend. Disappearing into fire, not as a man defeated, but as a ghost watching what would rise in his place. Centuries passed. Jungle swallowed stone. Ash covered memory. Majapahit became myth. Until now. In the shadow of Mount Penanggungan, a young archaeologist chipped away at volcanic rock, uncovering what was thought to be a burial chamber. But it wasn't a tomb, it was a vault. Inside, sealed armor, a crown untouched by time, a scroll bearing the golden eye, and a mirror, framed in obsidian, its glass impossibly clear. As she reached for it, torches flickered though no wind stirred. Her reflection met her gaze, but not as she expected. The woman in the glass wore crimson, and behind her eyes shimmered gold. Records said she was just a scholar, an orphan from the eastern coast. But blood doesn't forget. She was the last echo of Majapahit, the final descendant of the hidden heir. The empire had not died. It had simply waited. And now, in a world ruled by concrete and currency, something ancient opened its eyes again. A pulse beneath the earth. A whisper in the waves. Majapahit, remembered.